Have you ever noticed how some of the most intelligent people in history lived in solitude? Not because they wanted to be alone, but because the world around them spoke a different language, a language they could hear but never quite feel at home in. Carl Jung once said, "Loneliness does not come from being alone, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you." For intelligent minds, the world often feels out of sync. They see patterns others ignore, sense meanings in silence, and question what everyone else accepts without thought. While this depth can be beautiful, it can also become a cage. The more they understand about people, systems, and even themselves, the harder it becomes to belong. They don't find joy in gossip or comfort in small talk. The trivial chatter of daily life feels like noise against the symphony playing inside their head. And slowly, they retreat, not out of arrogance, but exhaustion. Society, in its rush for simplicity, rarely makes room for complex minds. So the intelligent person learns early. It's safer to stay quiet, to nod politely, and to carry thoughts like secret treasures no one else will ever see. Arthur Schopenhauer once called intelligence a curse disguised as a gift. He believed that the more a person understands the world, the more clearly they see its suffering, its illusions, its endless repetition. Ignorance, he said, allows for happiness because it blinds us to the futility of things. But intelligence strips away the comfort of illusion. For the highly intelligent, life often feels like a mirror with no reflection. They see others chasing pleasure, status, or validation, and though they may once have tried, they can't unsee the emptiness behind it all. So, they withdraw, not because they hate the world, but because they see it too clearly. Schopenhauer lived this truth. He walked alone, read alone, wrote alone. He once wrote, "A man can be himself so long as he is alone. If he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom." Yet even in that solitude, he was haunted by the price of awareness. It's as if the mind that sees too much also feels too much. Every hypocrisy, every illusion, every flicker of vanity that passes for truth. And so the intelligent become wanderers in their own reality, cursed with vision in a world that prefers blindness. The loneliness of intelligent people isn't simply about being different. It's about longing for connection on a level most people don't even know exists. They crave conversations that go beyond the surface, beyond "how was your day" or "what's new." They want to talk about why people suffer, how time changes us, what purpose means, what truth even is. But when they try, they're often met with silence, or worse, polite disinterest. So they learn to filter themselves, to appear normal, to play the part society expects, while their real mind lives in exile. Nietzsche once described this feeling perfectly. The higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly. In other words, deep understanding isolates not because it rejects others, but because it transcends the level where most communication happens. To many, the intelligent person seems distant, cold, or arrogant. But what they really are is tired of pretending, of simplifying, of making themselves smaller to fit inside ordinary rooms. They carry a silent hope that somewhere, someone else is thinking the same way. That maybe, just maybe, another mind is out there searching for connection, not of words, but of depth. Carl Jung believed that true intelligence doesn't just mean knowing, it means seeing oneself clearly. He called this lifelong process individuation, the journey of becoming who you truly are, not who the world wants you to be. But here lies the paradox. The more you walk that path, the fewer people walk beside you. Because most people don't want to know who they are. They just want to be told who they should be. They follow patterns, traditions, and trends, finding safety in imitation. But the intelligent person questions all of it. They ask, why do we believe this? Who benefits from this? Is this really me? And with every answer, another layer of illusion falls away. But when illusions fade, comfort fades with them. Friends who once felt close begin to drift. Conversations that once made sense now sound hollow. Jung warned that this process often feels like walking through fire, a trial of isolation and confusion before one finds inner wholeness. He said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But privilege doesn't mean ease. It means standing alone, facing truths others avoid, and still choosing authenticity over acceptance. And that, inevitably, makes intelligent people lonely, not because they want to be, but because the road to self-understanding rarely has company.
To see deeply is to feel deeply. And that's another hidden burden of intelligence. Emotional sensitivity tied to awareness. Most people can ignore the suffering around them. They can scroll past pain, laugh through conflict, and find distraction in the noise of daily life. But the intelligent mind can't unsee what it sees. It notices the quiet sadness in a friend's eyes, the tension in a stranger's voice, the hypocrisy in words meant to sound kind. It connects dots that others never think to connect. This kind of perception creates empathy, but empathy without outlet becomes sorrow. When you feel everything but can't share it, the world becomes heavier. Nietzsche once said, "When you stare into the abyss stares back at you." The intelligent often live with that echo, a kind of awareness that doesn't switch off. They see not just life's beauty, but its impermanence, its fragility. This sensitivity, while profound, can be isolating. It makes crowds overwhelming, conversations exhausting, and joy fleeting. Because behind every laugh, they can sense the temporary nature of things, and that knowledge quietly hurts. So they retreat again, not out of superiority, but out of emotional self-preservation. They need space to think, to feel, to recover from seeing too much. But solitude, over time, begins to change shape. At first, it feels like exile, an unwanted separation from the warmth of belonging. But slowly, it transforms into sanctuary. When the intelligent person finally accepts solitude not as punishment, but as path, something subtle happens. Loneliness turns into peace. They begin to understand that connection doesn't always mean company, that silence can be a conversation if you listen deeply enough. Schopenhauer hinted at this when he wrote, "The more intelligent a man is, the more he will be inclined towards solitude." He saw solitude as the only space where thought can truly breathe, where the mind can expand without interruption. In that stillness, intelligent people find clarity about the world, about others, about themselves. They begin to prefer depth over noise, quality over quantity, meaning over comfort. And though they may never blend into the crowd, they begin to see that they were never meant to. Their purpose is not to fit in, but to illuminate, quietly, like a candle in a dark room. Because sometimes the light that stands alone is the one that guides others home. Picture this. A child in a classroom asks, "Why?" again and again. At first, people smile. They call it curiosity. But as the questions get deeper, as the why turns into, "What if everything we know is wrong?" the smiles fade. The world doesn't dislike intelligence. It dislikes the discomfort that intelligence creates. When someone thinks too deeply, They challenge systems, habits, and assumptions. And society, built on repetition and routine, rarely welcomes that challenge. The intelligent person is often told, "You think too much." But what they hear is, "Stop seeing what I choose to ignore." And that is how misunderstanding begins, not from lack of intelligence in others, but from the fear that truth might cost them comfort.
So the smart person, the questioner, becomes the outsider. They laugh differently, love differently, dream differently. They are respected from afar, but rarely understood up close. Nietzsche once said, "Those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music." And so, the intelligent dance alone, not because they want to, but because few can hear the melody that moves them. When you can't belong to the crowd, you start belonging to ideas. The intelligent person often finds home in philosophy, in books, in music that speaks without words. They connect with minds across centuries, Plato, Seneca, Jung, Schopenhauer, not because they agree with everything, but because these thinkers understood the same solitude. It's a strange comfort, realizing that someone who lived hundreds of years ago once felt what you're feeling right now. Their words become a bridge across time. Carl Jung called this the collective unconscious, the idea that deep beneath our differences, all human minds share a common soul. So perhaps loneliness isn't the absence of connection, but a different kind of connection, one that transcends the moment. Intelligent people often build invisible friendships with writers, dreamers, philosophers, and even with their own future self. They begin to see that belonging doesn't always mean being surrounded by people. Sometimes it means standing with timeless truths. But the journey doesn't end with thought. If the intelligent person stays in their head too long, intellect becomes isolation. Thoughts spiral, empathy fades, and the world starts to look like a puzzle instead of a home. The wise ones, Jung, Abler, even Socrates, all warned about this. They believed that the highest form of intelligence is not cold analysis, but integration, when the mind and heart finally learn to speak to each other. True understanding comes not just from seeing clearly, but from feeling deeply. A balanced mind doesn't just dissect the world, it embraces it. So, the intelligent person must return to life, to simple moments, the sound of rain, the warmth of another's hand, the quiet joy of sharing silence with someone who needs no explanation. Because wisdom is not in escaping humanity, but in rediscovering it, after you've seen its darkest corners. When intellect and emotion reunite, loneliness begins to fade. What remains is solitude, calm, strong, and full of quiet light. In the end, intelligent people feel lonely because they live between two worlds, the world as it is and the world as it could be. They see the distance between truth and illusion, love and dependence, connection and conformity. And that awareness separates them, until they learn that solitude is not emptiness, but space. In that space, thoughts become art, emotions become understanding, and loneliness becomes wisdom. Schopenhauer was right. Awareness carries pain, but he missed something. Awareness also carries beauty. To feel deeply is to live deeply. And though the path is lonely, it is also luminous, lit by the quiet brilliance of thought that dares to see what others don't. So if you feel misunderstood, distant, or alone in your thoughts, remember this. You are not broken. You are simply seeing further than most. The world may not always understand that, but the few who do will find you. And until they do, your solitude will keep you company, as the quiet proof that intelligence, though lonely, is never truly alone. Because sometimes
The most intelligent thing you can do is learn to be at peace with being misunderstood.